And I'm scared that we are truly losing it. And if we don't do a course correction soon, we are going to be, it will be lost forever. And this breaks my heart. So while I'm in MLA, I will run as hard and as fast as I can to raise awareness and enliven people to not be afraid anymore, to speak up and acknowledge that the things we're hearing are crazy, absolutely crazy. The world feels like it's gone crazy, and it has.
Welcome. I am so excited today. I get to sit down with a Canadian hero of our time, Dallas Brodie.
Good to see you, Mark.
Thanks for coming on. And this is amazing that I have the opportunity to speak to you. You know, Canadians across the country, they're starving for truth tellers, people that refuse to surrender with all the madness that we have across this country. You are a voice for us that want the truth, that want the facts, because we're being led down a road that, quite honestly, we're going to get into it in this segment. But I noticed that you wear the cross. Are you wearing it today as well?
Yes, I have it here. I've got it on. I always wear it because it's there to support me and uplift me and remind me of our salvation and my Lord and my Savior. It's right there with me, walking with me, helping me.
Absolutely. Everything's on the line right now. I feel it in my heart. Millions of Canadians are looking and saying, we need somebody to change this direction. And you seem to be one of the people that is really talking about the things nobody wants to talk about. And without you, we wouldn't have a voice. So that's why it's so exciting. I have a quote that I want to read here. It's from Mark Twain. He said it best. In the beginning of change, the patriot is a scared man, brave and hated and scorned. When his cause succeeds, the timid join him. For then it costs nothing to be a patriot. That's you right now. And that's why we're here today.
That's a really great quote. I mean, Mark Twain has many amazing quotes. Another one of my favorites of his is that a lie makes its way halfway around the world before the truth even gets its boots on. And the problem with lies, and a lot of the lies we're facing in our society today, is that they are well around the world. And the truth is just pulling its act together. And being a person who is trying to bring truth back to a world that seems to have gone insane is very hard. Because the powers that be don't want there to be any slowing down in the lies. Don't ask me why they want to spread lies. They have their own agendas. Is it money? Is it control? Is it power? All of the most toxic things. But this is, I think, what's going on. And it is hard to stand up in the middle of this maelstrom and say, wait a second, because everybody turns on you and feels angry. How dare you say that? You're upsetting the apple cart. You're causing stress. You're causing conflict, and people don't like it. It's uncomfortable. Even if they're the people who just ideologically oppose you, that's one thing. But then the people who have sort of been going along to get along feel uncomfortable because they need to question their own assumptions that they were making. They hear you and they think, wow, that may be true, but I'm scared to acknowledge that. And I understand that feeling. And why me? Why in this place at this time? For such a time as this, I don't know, except for it has to do with, I think, my age. I'm in my early 60s. I had a great life growing up, and maybe being born in the early 60s, I saw what the world used to be. And I have been in shock watching what has happened to the world that our parents built for us. And I'm scared that we are truly losing it. And if we don't do a course correction soon, we are going to be, it will be lost forever. And this breaks my heart. So while I'm in MLA, I will run as hard and as fast as I can to raise awareness and enliven people to not be afraid anymore, to speak up and acknowledge that the things we're hearing are crazy, absolutely crazy. The world feels like it's gone crazy, and it has.
I guess my question is being a leader and a patriot right now, and the heat is on, while there's so many people that stay silent, how do you deal with that?
I have a very strong team around me, and I just know, I think it's my training. I mean, I was a lawyer for many, many years, and I've had different jobs, and I've worked in different things, and I've learned a lot through my life. And I also know that deep in my heart that the things I'm saying are not crazy or different. They're normal. what I'm saying is normal. And I will be unapologetic in saying that. Normal is good. People don't want to be lectured in gender weighing and all of this radical gender theory, critical race theory, climate alarmism, uh, critical race theory. Did I already say that? When there's so many of these theories that are queer theory, all of these things that have been intended to upend life, that most people just want a normal life. And they just want to work, go home at night, have dinner with their family, have their kids successfully moving through school, and perhaps going through to become a tradesperson or go on to university. It's very basic what people need and want. And I feel like I'm just a normal person standing up for those things, and it's resonating very in a very big way here in British Columbia. I'm probably the most trusted politician now in this entire province. We have people, halls to overflowing. I never would have predicted this, but you know, there's standing room only at events, and I get standing ovations. Not because I'm super special, but you know what? I'm telling all these people it's okay to know and say out loud something's gone really wrong here, and we need to fix this. So we're all finding courage in each other, and I'm I just keep going, and I also have my faith.
I think what you're getting at, and one of the reasons why I've been highly successful, is everything I do is based on data and facts. I need to know the data. I need to know the numbers. I need to know the truth. I'm seeking the truth on a daily basis, and it really resonates with people because when you look at $1.4 billion sent to CBC and everything we see online these days, it feels like they're controlling a very tight narrative. And we're seeing on a daily basis that a lot of the things that they tell us is not based on data or facts. It's based on ideology. And
Correct.
and we're losing our history, we're losing our heritage, and they're doing it on purpose because if you don't have a history or a heritage, then it's easy to manipulate and change the masses towards whatever vision or utopia they have planned for us. But I believe in my history because in Canada, my grandfather fought in World War II. And every time I saw him, he would tell me about the sacrifices made for this country, for our freedom, for the Canada that was built, that we enjoy today, was sacrificed by so many of his friends, did not come back. He actually was shot out of the sky in a plane and captured by the Nazis. And he was in a Nazi prison camp and he survived. And he would always talk to me about the Canadian history and what kind of sacrifices were made in order to build this prosperous country. And they're trying to erase it before our very eyes. And he told me, he said, this is not the country that I fought for. It's gone completely wrong. And, you know, all I have to say is thank you for everything you're doing for Canadians and showing some light and bringing back the truth and our heritage. And that brings me to faith and family. But before we get into that, you've made tremendous sacrifices personally to do this. And I just want to know, like, where does that come from? Because, you know, being a public figure and standing up for truth and you're leading this movement of truth, there must be tremendous sacrifice. What keeps you grounded and keep going? And I'm sure it's going to lead into our family and faith discussion.
Well, faith, my faith is, and I'm not here to proselytize to other people or tell them they should ascribe to my faith. I am a Christian. I go to church on Sundays. And why do I go? Because I go to just quietly worship God and remember what's really important in life. And we can do nothing without God. And Jesus taught that ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And what does that mean, really? For a long time, I didn't understand, what does that mean? Why does the truth set you free? Well, when you're living with lies all around you, you get confused and you can't make good decisions because you know something's wrong. It's like being in a relationship with someone who's cheating on you. You know something's wrong because they're saying they're somewhere, but then when you check up on that, they're not really there, and they've got weird excuses, and they keep saying, you know, nothing's wrong, nothing's wrong. But in your heart and in your stomach and in your body, you know something's wrong here, and yet you're being told that there's nothing wrong. This is very confusing. And so even once the truth comes to light and you find out for sure what's going on, there's a liberation in that. And the liberation in that, it's not that you're deeply saddened that your partner has been cheating on you. That's deeply saddening. But there's also a relief to know that the confusion you were feeling in your head and in your body wasn't wrong. Your gut instincts were correct. Everything you were imagining, all your suspicions and things, and you were starting to act weird because you're checking pockets or whatever you were doing to find out what was going on. You were doing that because you weren't getting the truth. And the truth can, if, the lies can really scramble your brain and make you uncomfortable. So once you're free of the lies, you have to accept the loss and the sadness, but you're now free and you feel elated, and you don't need to feel badly about yourself anymore where someone was telling you, oh, you're this and you're suspicious and you're unreasonable and why are you criticizing me. It's like, I'm not, actually, I just wanted the truth. So now you know I was right, it was true, I knew it, it's hurtful to know the truth, but now I know it and I'm free and I don't need to beat myself up anymore. And so I think that's what the truth is, and it goes deeper than that. But I really, I have two wonderful kids, and when I go home from work, I leave work channel. Like, when you're watching TV, you can only be on one channel at a time. I switch off this channel and I go home and I'm on mom channel, and I focus on my kids. And I also do things like just basic take care of myself. I go to the gym probably 2 or 3 times a week. I take care of myself. I get a lot of sleep, and I try to remember that when you are telling the truth, you are going to take hits. For sure, I never saw the amount of like abuse that I was walking into. At first, it was just a shock to my system. I had never been called names before in my life. I'd never had people questioning who I was or what I stood for. Like I was always sort of living in a world where there was mutual respect around everyone I worked with, and this is a very different world. But when you're standing up in the middle of all of this craziness that's going on, the powers that have been feeding off the lies don't like it. And I've had to come to grips with this, and I think that I have prayer. I pray. I sometimes even listen to quiet music to calm the nerves and keep the just stay in myself and realize if this were easy, everyone would do it. It's not easy, but the more of us who do it, the easier it gets. And the more you keep walking through it, the stronger you get. And that's been a real experience for me to realize that even with sometimes have I thought, forget it. I'm not doing this anymore. This is too big a price. I didn't get into politics to be this kind of, you know, I don't know what you want to call it. Like, I didn't expect to be here, but I am here. Here I am. And I will just say I am going to do all the work I can to restore sanity to whatever part of this little world that I can do and help people to find their feet again, because they've been knocked down by government badly. And I remember during the mandates thinking something is very wrong here. Something is very wrong.
Yeah, actually, that's what woke me up. One thing is I had a very successful career in commercial real estate finance, doing quite well, and everything was good. But I got woken up, and I decided to leave everything behind. And I was challenged by my wife. She's like, "Are you nuts? You went to university. You got your mortgage license. You got your real estate license. You have all this experience." And I said, "Yeah, but listen." If I didn't have all of those things, there's no way I could do what I'm doing today. So it led me to this moment where I feel like I'm part of change. I'm part of a solution, and I'm waking up a lot of people, and they're joining. There's a lot of people that are helping me in the background, giving me information, and it's absolutely amazing. I want people to remember that our national anthem has "God keep our land glorious and free." And you'll often see in my show, I have "lest we forget." There's a reason that Canada was built on these foundations, and they're trying to strip it all away so that we forget about our history.
And this is right out of the playbook. Almost every communist leader, Stalin did this, Mao did this, Pol Pot. Tearing down the past is what the revolution requires. Even Karl Marx wrote about it. You have to destroy everything that was in the past, because when you do that, you unmoor people, and now they're just drifting around, and they're susceptible to the newest idea that's being pushed on you. No, we can't have private property. We have to collectivize the land. And no, you can't be a scientist. You need to work in the field. And no, you can't go to church. That's bad for you. We want you to have no faith. And tearing down statues. And All of these things are designed to unhinge us, or unmoor us is probably the best word, from the thing that kept us stable. And the further we move away from World War II and the Holocaust and the time, you see, they're working on the generation that's coming up right now to change all the history, and it's being done through many different ways. You know, the land acknowledgements saying that we were a horrible country and founded on horrible things. I mean, this is outrageous. We're a country that people want to move to from around the world. If we're a horrible country, why would it? None of it makes sense. But the more they get you to repeat it, and they are basically brainwashing you into accepting basically completely big lies about our past and who we were and what we've achieved. And I want to say that the other thing I think that grounds me is the fact that our generation, you've just talked about your grandpa, what they did for us in this country was nothing short of heroic. This was an untamed land. They came here. I'm a fifth generation Canadian. I consider myself Indigenous, born in, I'm Indigenous to Canada, and I am here. And these people worked so hard to build cities, build railroads, build roads. You think about the putting up transmission lines, building a life, building community centers, planting beautiful trees on boulevards, like all the planning and the effort and the love that went into building this incredible society. And then I've got my children on the other side who I want to hand, and I'm starting to see their future is disappearing in it. And I'm not being apocalyptic about this. It is happening. It's drifting away, and I owe it to my ancestors. They fought for us. We haven't even had to be involved in a kinetic war. I'm not sitting in a trench having my arms blown off and rats crawling across me while water soaks my clothes. These poor boys who fought. We are actually fighting a war that's sort of what they're calling the unrestricted warfare of narratives and information. And people are more afraid of being called a racist or a phobe of some sort than when other people took bullets and landed on the shores of Normandy. I mean, that's fear. Flying a plane
and
with
it's
everybody
because
shooting at you.
yeah, it's because we live in a world where we're interconnected. I mean, look, we're doing a recording right now, and so we could connect with everybody. So people don't want to be shamed. It takes courage to do what to stand up for. But you're waking a lot of people up. I actually want to know a little bit about you. Like, I know about your educational background, but I'm sure a lot of people out there don't know about your educational background. So you were you did your law degree, did you not?
Yes, I went to public school in Vancouver, and I graduated in 1980 from just a normal public school. And I was a good student, worked hard, and I was very involved in my community always. And I applied to I got into Princeton University down in New Jersey, which is an Ivy League university, and I was
Wow.
really excited. I was beyond excited when I got in. I had worked so hard. I remember crying tears of joy. And then I went there, and then after that, I studied political science there. Graduated in 1984. I also did one semester during that time in Paris. I speak French, and I went and studied in Paris for a semester as well, and that was incredible. And then I went up to the University of Toronto and studied law at the Faculty of Law there, and became
Wow,
a
isn't that the top law
yeah,
university?
yes, it was the top university, top law school in Canada. And I got in there, and then I graduated in 1987, and then moved back to Vancouver, where I grew up. And I practiced law, and then I went off onto my legal career. And then I did 7 years in broadcasting. And then I went back to law for the last 10 years of my actual sort of working career. And I also run a business now. In the background, I have a real estate business that I run, and I ran for office, and I'm an MLA, and I'm a mom. And so, yeah, I'm
You know
busy.
what is incredible to me is that you don't need to do any of this.
No,
You could easily just live a beautiful life with your law degree and do your real estate thing, yet you're not doing that. And I find that truly incredible because not only does it take courage to do what you're doing, but to change the direction of this country and be a leader of truth is quite something. It's actually phenomenal to witness, and it's inspiring.
thank you, Mark. Actually, my plan had been I had bought acreage during the mandates out in a city called Creston, in and I had planned and I built a house there. And I actually my goal was to do some horse rescuing on this land once my kids leave for college, and I can start sort of I call it my Yellowstone life. I don't know if you've watched the show Yellowstone, but something about that show really appeals to me. And just the horses. I've always loved horses and animals. And I would like to still do that when I complete here. I dreamed of that. And so I even went out and got my gun license, because I thought if I'm going to be out there, I need to have my firearms license. I had never even seen a gun in my life, and I went to this course, and so I was getting ready for this, and then I ran for office, and so here I am, and I think that you can say you don't need to do this. I say to myself, no, I don't need to do it in terms of accomplishment or achievement reasons or for money. I'm fine with all of that, but I need to do it to make use of my life and the gifts that I've been given by God and the strength I have. I need to use those gifts to do good things. And I will, and so here I am, and I'm doing it. And so I mean, you're doing incredible work too. I often say to people who interview me, I can't do this without people like you who are also taking the initiative and being brave, because what you're doing is brave. And I know people like us just get attacked, and that comes with the territory. So we stand strong and say, no, I hear you. I see you attacking me, but I'm not going to stop. You will not stop me. I know I'm fighting for really beautiful and good things. And a lot of people need that. And I thank you, Mark, for also being brave. And so here we are.
Well, I appreciate that. There's a saying that my instructor would tell me when I was in university, and he always said, if not now, then when? If not you, then who? And it just stuck with me.
That's
said,
right.
If there's somebody that's going to do it, it's going to be me. I always say that. I'm like, you better get out of the way because I'm coming.
Well, you've been in commercial real estate. That's a competitive business. You have
Absolutely.
to have fire. That's a tough business. I know a lot of commercial real estate brokers, and that's a really, really tough business.
No, but you know what? I've always been the type of person that somebody says, there's a fire. I will literally be running at the fire.
That's
I'll
like
see
me.
if I could. I could see if I could save somebody. I want to see the fire. I want to see how hot it is. Most people are going to be running like as fast as possible. But I'm always been the type, for example, growing up, my parents were like, you better not touch that. It's going to burn your hand. And I'm like, okay, please. And then I touch it and my hand's burnt off. But I want to see how hot it is. I want to see how hot the thing is. And yeah, it's just the way that I've lived. It's because I'm a curious person. I'm always curious. And that curiosity has led me to the truth. And driven for data and understanding. And I think if we all go towards that purpose of truth and understanding, then we're going to get to a place where we could live unity and together. And that's what I want to see. Our society is getting broken into millions of pieces. Yeah. I've never thought in my lifetime I'd see something like this. And so another thing is, so David Eby, he's a lawyer as well.
Yes, but to my knowledge, he's never really practiced the way most lawyers do. He's gone to work for NGOs and like Pivot Legal, and has been sort of the lead force there, and then went to be the head of the BC Liberties Association, and then got into politics. And so, there's something that comes from actually practicing and being in the trenches for years and actually doing that part. So yes, he went to law school and he's a trained lawyer. Yep.
So
and he's a smart guy. I mean, David Eby's a smart guy.
I'm not saying he's not smart. What I'm thinking here is, what are the chances that a person that has studied law and finishes law education would be able to go to a signing ceremony and have no idea what's being signed? And he was front row seat. How is that even possible?
Well, it's not possible. It's not possible that as premier, does your audience know about this story with this? I don't know if you've been discussing it, but
yeah, they know that almost all of Vancouver, Burnaby, New Westminster, partially Coquitlam, some parts of Surrey, Richmond, North Vancouver, West Vancouver.
Yep.
They're all under Aboriginal title. We have no idea what that means for us, but we saw what happened in Richmond, where those poor landowners had to put Aboriginal title, and all those commercial properties. I'm actually the whole thing. I'm actually very aware with the commercial properties on that site. It's hundreds of millions of dollars sitting there, and they're all brand new, top of the art, state of the art facilities.
Correct.
And they were looking to get hundreds of millions of dollars worth of loans. And as a commercial lender, I know all about, as soon as you see something like that, it's called, why would I put my money there when I could put it in all the other projects? So immediately it's competition, right? So I go, there's risk here. I don't want to be part of that risk. No loan. They got no loan. And for the residents of 50 plus years owning property,
Yep.
all of a sudden they couldn't get a loan from the bank. And then they can't even sell their Who's going to buy a property that gets no loan from the bank and has Aboriginal title on top of it? And even if they decided to say, hey, Aboriginal title always goes first. And we're talking about, and then after that, you have your fee simple. It means that they could collect taxes from the land. Yeah, maybe they could say right now, we're not going after the land. We're not going after the taxes, even though we're doing it with YVR. But they can do it. That's the thing. They can do it once they get so in 2 decades from now, we forget about all this, and then they start exercising their land claim.
Correct. This is what I'm saying. If they don't want it, why are they claiming it?
Correct.
Why? This whole claim needs to be withdrawn. Stop making claims. Why are you claiming this? You're a band of 1,400 people. Their own reserve is an absolute mess. I've been down there. And now you want joint decision-making authority over all of the lower mainland of British Columbia? Are you crazy? And you're acting like, oh, there's nothing to see here. No big deal. We're just a friendly group who wants to just say we want title over you. Then they say they're not coming for the private properties. Okay, well, let's talk about that. Let's pretend for a second that they're not going for the private property. Okay, so you have your lot that's 33 feet by 120 feet deep. Let's just say that. But they're going to own the sidewalks, the plumbing underneath, the sewers, the lampstands, the street signs, the roads, the everything. They own it all. It's theirs. They've got title over it. They're going to change all the signs. This is what we're seeing rolling out everywhere. Like, I don't even know where to begin with this, but we're seeing street names changed to names we can't read. So, and I hear the workings are going along to change the name of Vancouver, change the name of British Columbia to the Coast Salish Territories. We're seeing it in Victoria here. All these signs come up. They're changing the writing. They're removing things that used to be at the legislature, and they're replacing it with languages you can't read, and it's popping up everywhere. And
I'm curious because like you said, my family on my mother's side has been in Canada for over 450 years. I was born in Burnaby, and I've only lived in Burnaby. This is the only place I know. I don't have any heritage other than Canada. So what are they trying to do? Put me on, I've said this before, put me on a piece of wood and send me off it to the Pacific Ocean? I belong in this country just as much as everybody else.
That's right.
So I don't understand what they're doing. What they're doing seems to me like it's going to, not only is it going to cause a problem, but it feels like when people wake up, because everybody's sleeping, when people notice that their property values are gone and that they can't get renew their mortgage, or, like, who's going to buy into a real estate market with all this uncertainty?
Well, this is part of the problem. And let me give you one quote from the lawyer who was acting for the Cowichan tribe in that lawsuit. That this is a separate case for the land from the land grab that was just announced like a tsunami last week in BC. People were asking him about private property rights, and he confirmed in an interview to the media, this lawyer, I forget his name, but I read it and I was like, wow. He said, yeah, if you want to sell your land now, you're going to have to also consult with us.
What? Yeah. No way.
So what does that mean?
No way.
What does consult always mean? Money.
That means money. Yeah. Money. So they're going to want to cut.
I'll give you approval, but what does approval mean? There's always consideration for that. So he said they will have to get approval or consult before they sell. That's what he said, and that was in the media, and they're trying to bury that, but he actually said the quiet part out loud. Why would you want to make a claim over all of the lower mainland of Vancouver? Why? What does it give you? Well, It's obviously about money. It's obviously about power. It can't be about anything else. Otherwise, you wouldn't assert the claim. And so, for all
I
of
just
the,
want to
and
say one thing, Dallas. The evil does its deeds in the darkness.
yes,
And what they've done here is, and David Eby, I think he knew exactly what they were signing, but
I agree.
they're signing things where even some First Nations people don't even know about what they signed. They're
Correct.
doing these deals behind closed doors without any knowledge from the public.
Correct.
And to me, the darkness of the deal is evil. And where
Correct.
evil doesn't exist is we should have full transparency. The light needs to be shined on this so that we could see with our very eyes what they're doing. Because behind closed doors in back room like this is where evil is working its magic.
Secrecy has infused our entire province, and I'm going to come back to that. But first of all, let's mention the federal government didn't even want these. There are 3 agreements that comprise this insane agreement, this insane land grab, and they didn't want any of them to be released to the public. We weren't even supposed to be allowed to see this. When you even read the first paragraph of this, you can't believe what you're reading. It is just, and it goes on for 40 pages, double-sided, in small print, and it
I
goes.
read the agreement.
Have you read it?
Yep.
Yeah, or parts
And
of it.
it's the reason they didn't want the public to see it, because if they did, there would be, I would say, chaos. There would be riots. So it would put the 2010 Vancouver riot. It would look like peanuts.
Correct. This is a magnitude. What's the highest earthquake you can have on the Richter scale?
10.
This is a 10 on a Richter scale.
Oh, I agree. It's catastrophic.
Yes, it is. And people, if they weren't awake before, they are waking up now. This is something that people can barely digest intellectually or in their. It's so shocking. And this is on top of, let's not forget, this is a band of only 1,400 people. They have a beautiful area of Vancouver. It's right down on the Fraser River. They own, lands around. They lease property to the golf courses down there. They've been given other tracts of land in the city of Vancouver. They have quite a bit of land holdings throughout the city of Vancouver already, from which they are making money, which is fine. And so you ask yourself, why do you need more? Why? You've got
But
1,400 people.
one second here, Dallas. And I might be wrong, but this is where I feel now. Maybe I could be educated otherwise. But I have I love the First Nation. I have nothing against First Nation whatsoever. Same. I believe that this is coming from something else. And I don't know. I don't know. Is David Eby benefiting from this? Is he getting financial benefits? Like, where is this coming from? Because it doesn't make any sense.
It feels like land collectivization to me. And there's been a really good article written by Cosmin de Souza, who's with, is he with Juno or Western? I can't remember which outlet he's with, but he wrote, his family grew up in Romania. And they were there with the incremental takeover, the land reform movement, which was done apparently to help people. And all of the nice, happy talk was used to lull people into thinking, okay, well, they're just taking that. They're just taking that. But the Ceausescu regime, slowly but surely, was collectivizing the land. And it took about 20 years, bite, bite, bite. They took it in pieces. And then one day they just woke up and all private property was confiscated. It was just gone. And everybody was thrown into abject poverty, which, of course, this mess in Romania resulted in the Ceausescus being executed, and because of the revolution that happened, because people were so destitute, they revolted. But I see this as whether David Eby is personally benefiting, that I don't know. But I will say that there is a greater agenda going on in our country, and I see that it looks to me like people like Mark Carney, and remember, this deal is with the federal government. Mark Carney strikes me as there's something very fake about his prime ministership. It doesn't sit well. There's something going on here that's bigger that's not being told to us. And if this was going to happen, if they were planning to hand over, let's look at this. If the federal government were planning to hand over all of the metropolitan areas of this country to First Nations bands and take away title and give rights and title and names and change all of these things, why didn't they put that in their campaign? Why didn't they tell us they were going to do this to let us vote on this?
Well, they're not even letting us see the negotiations that's all been done in secret. They
Correct.
actually released this land, the most insane thing I've ever seen in my entire life, being an owner of a property in Burnaby. I've never seen anything like this. They released that Aboriginal title over my property on a Friday evening in a fisheries press release.
Correct. And so there is, and let's not forget, they did it also when things were exploding in the Middle East. Like so cynical to slide this in. This is what I also realized, that in government now, we are constantly being hit with government by stealth. They do things to trick us so that we don't even realize what's happened until it's 2 or 3 weeks later. It's just amazing that this got leaked to someone at Juno. That's the only reason we heard about it. And the mainstream media, CTV, CBC, and Global did not report on it.
Well, we would actually, so Juno found it, but I would have found it. Somebody in my sphere of independent journalists would have found it, because I actually go into and I read things that most people would never take a look at. And that's because of my background in commercial real estate finance. I'd have to be an investigator and read the most dry documents, the documents that nobody would ever read. I read every single line, understood it with a highlighter. So I go into these things. But they know there's people like me that exist. That's why they dropped it on a Friday night in a fisheries press release, because they knew it would probably take us like a week to find it, which is exactly what happened.
It did take approximately a week. And when it came out, I mean, I actually couldn't believe what I was looking at. And at first, people were saying this has got to be an AI joke. It was so ridiculous that I remember going, this can't be real. I was on an email group, and then someone said, I've heard this, I've seen this, but this can't be true. And this is a very, well-educated and informed bunch. They were even like, there's no way.
How could they lie to our faces saying that our property rights are not, they don't want our property? How could they say that?
Because they're afraid of the monster they've unleashed. And
But it's a lie.
Yes, it's a lie. But you see, they're now going to try and manage your reaction. They're going to manage you and say, oh, don't worry. We promise not to come for your private property. I call BS on that. There's no way this won't affect your private property. Even if they don't come in and physically remove you from your house, that's not what they're going to do. But they own everything around it now, and they're going to force you to, you can imagine the power that they're now going to have over you. They are going to upend the entire city structure. And, there's a good anecdote, a story that I just heard from someone in an area, in an area called Penticton. And apparently the city hall had been working on a new intersection. There was a new ramp going down, and a nice new intersection. It took months to plan so that there could be access and different things going on. It's an intersection. Apparently they were ready to start. All the approvals are done. It was ready to go. The local band came in and just said, nope, canceled. It was over.
Oh, wow.
So
they could basically restrict what you could do with your land.
Yeah, and they'll control the street exchanges and power is, and let's not forget, they will have joint decision-making authority over all of this. Okay, joint.
As if we don't have enough red tape and bureaucracy as it is. Imagine that.
But they also, you can bet this is going to lead to money payments, that they're going to divert tax money, because it's got to be about money or power, because otherwise why do it? So next thing, you're going to be paying taxes or whatever you want to call it to this group over whom you have no right to vote. Now that is called taxation without representation. That is a fundamental no-no. If you can't vote for them, they can't tax you.
People are not going to accept this, Dallas.
They're not going to accept it. And I have been calling in everything I do that this claim must be withdrawn, and all of the rest of the land claims over all of the land mass of British Columbia have to be withdrawn, and proper agreements reached with the reserve and the lands they have right now. And they have to normalize their bounds and start acting as townships and municipalities the way everybody else is. And there's several steps that I would like to see happen in BC when it comes to all of these claims. But the lawyers who have been working on this for years, making millions and millions and millions of dollars that we pay the lawyers, then they sue us, then we give them more money and land. All of this, they have enabled all of this along and asserted all of these claims against the people of British Columbia. That's what it's about. How much could less than 4% of the population possibly need? Think about it. 96% of this province does not identify as First Nations. How can it possibly be that 4% of the population of the province gets to run everything?
And no, but they're making it so that, like, I mean, this is going to break the fabric of our society.
Yes.
Because we need to be collectively working together.
Yes.
So that we could enrich everybody prospers.
That's and
I
want to say
society.
That, you know, for all of them calling me, do you know some of the most vocal people who come to speak to me are First Nations people? I've got people wanting to run for 1BC who are First Nations. They hate what's going on. They see it. And I get calls from around the province from Indigenous people who are living on reserves who are being abused by their chief and council. The stories just roll in. It's constant. And
no, because I believe, like, I don't know if people out there have seen what you said, but I've heard you say that you want to see the First Nation rise up from their current situation where they have everything that we have, because these reserves are in very poor condition. Yes. With all the money that we send.
And that's why Canadians are frustrated, because I think all of us are good-hearted and generous, and we want a better situation for our Indigenous brothers and sisters who are part of our population. We're all here together. We're not going anywhere. And so, but we have relegated under the Indian Act all of these bands to living in these communist ethno-states, and the people in those reserves don't get to own fee simple title to their land. They're given something called like a certificate of possession, but they have to apply to renovate their own home, for example, and everything is centrally controlled.
Is that what they're going to do to us?
Well, that's what it feels like to me. I mean, that's what. First of all, fee simple title cannot coexist with Aboriginal title. They keep trying to tell us that it can, but it can't. You can't share title with someone. You can't. Title is either you have it or you don't.
Neither should I allow that to happen, because I invested my overtime, sacrifice going out, worked multiple jobs to save enough money to purchase something, and then you're going to tell me down the road you're going to strip away my title? This is insanity.
Well, and I've worked really hard, like over the course of my marriage. My ex-husband, I mean, we're great friends now and everything, but we did a lot of work together. I would work all week as a lawyer, and then on weekends we'd just be going to Home Depot, coming home, putting up drywall, stuffing and insulation, and doing things. And this is what people do when they love something, when they own something. They want to fix it up, build a little deck, try something new, maybe put a suite in downstairs to make a little bit more money. Which is what we did. And people, this is what gives them joy. And the thought that I'm going to build this, and my kids, like, they'll have something that I can pass on to them. If nothing else, I can give them my house, right? And so that is the dream most people have, is to help their children have a better life than they had, and to pass on something of value to them. And now, nothing in our system guarantees that everyone is going to be successful. Nothing. Whether you're Indigenous, non-Indigenous, there are people who are fools with their money. There are people who are careful with their money, people who are somewhere in between. And that's the lottery of life. But we are destroying that. And for Indigenous people, they are being deprived the right to get on their own 2 feet and move forward and live like everybody else. And it's really not fair. But remember, Pierre Elliott Trudeau in 1969, together with Jean Chrétien, produced something called the White Paper, and people can look it up. The White Paper in 1969 was Trudeau, even though I didn't like Trudeau Sr., he was correct about this. We cannot go forward with 2 classes of citizens in this country. And he said the Indian Act has to be abolished. It has to stop. You know who protested? We didn't push the Indian Act on the Native people. Guess who protested it being lifted? The Assembly of First Nations. That is the group of 635 chiefs from across the country who comprise the AFN. They said, no way, no way. and they backed Trudeau and Chrétien right off the white paper, and out came something else later where it was preserved. And so now we've got the Indian Act, which I think has been a disaster for Canada. And all of these things are going to have to be revisited. The Constitution needs to be amended because our society cannot continue forward with two people based on ancestry fighting, and only a few chiefs and council are even going to benefit from this anyway. And that's a fact. We know that.
Okay, man, we could talk all day. Because of time, I want to pivot quickly because I did want to talk about one thing that's important and coming up here is there's currently a conservative leadership race.
Yeah.
I want to get your thoughts on that. Is there somebody that you're backing or you're staying out of it? But when somebody is selected, are you going to be working? Will you work with any candidate or is there a preferred? I don't know. I'm going to leave it with you, but for someone like me, because, I'm independent, obviously I support your cause, but you're one BC. And then in order to move and repeal all this stuff, because NDP, they're going full tilt to remove your property rights. So in order to move the direction we're going, we have to have a conservative led province.
Yes.
And with that being said, what's one BC, I don't know what the polling is, 10% or 7 to 10% right now. And then there's so I need your full picture on what your thoughts are with everything and helping someone like me to maneuver through this.
Sure. Yeah. Maneuvering through this has also been, I've been sort of figuring out how do we contend with this, because the BC Conservative Party, of course, was completely infiltrated by Liberals, and that was part of the problem of that party. So it was sort of dead on arrival when it was.
Wait 1 second. If there was a true conservative leader, would that change the dynamics of the party, or you think that it's?
I think if there's a true conservative leader, they're still going to have very big problems in that caucus because it's quite a division down the middle. A true conservative leader will be better than some of the absolute liberals who are running, like Millibar and who's the other? The names are escaping me right now. There are a couple of real liberals running. Caroline Elliott, liberal. So it's going to, and some of the conservatives, Sheldon Clare, didn't meet the signature barrier. But so what's happening is different candidates are reaching out to me to talk to me because I've become a factor in their discussions because they can't get away from the questions of everybody saying, we loved Alice Brodie. What are you going to do about this? And why she should never have been kicked out and all of these things. And so they're hearing this from everyone. I'm filling town halls and everything, just one person, and they can't even get 20 people in a room. And so I'm here saying, what do I do with this clout that I have? And so I'm not openly backing anybody right now, but I am talking to different leadership candidates. And my sense is that no matter who leads the Conservative Party, it is going to have to be a coalition with One BC, and we make some agreement that we have to have really strong conservatives. You guys, if you want our support, we get 10, 20 candidates, you get this many, because we will be the strong spine that holds us firm. Because I've seen how easy it is to drift once you get into politics, and we need true fighters who aren't afraid to stand very clearly and firmly for property rights in BC without any apology. No apology. And this is what I find is they keep sort of apologizing for saying, well, like, for example, Peter Millibar, we need to repeal DRIPA, but we'll introduce a new act called the Reconciliation Act. I'm like, no, we don't need any more reconciliation. We have apologized over and over and over again. We have paid, if you want to call them reparations, for years, decades, and to no avail. Situations are still bad. Some people have gotten very rich, but the vast majority no. So I think that the reconciliation is done. That's my view of it. It's done.
Well, wait a second. I think what you're trying to get at is a new system, but the system that we're all part of.
Correct. And we need to remove all of these race-based delineations in the province, and that's really important. But I think that we will need a coalition working with the Conservatives, and I think that we are going to continue building, and we've got terrific candidates. We have over 150 people who have asked if they can be candidates for us. We have volunteers showing up all over the place. Like it feels more like a movement than anything else. a movement for people who are just can't stand it anymore and they know what they're hearing doesn't make sense. So I can't predict the future, but I'm watching the leadership race carefully and wondering how this is going to end up. But if they elect a liberal, there could also be a mass exodus out of that party over to 1BC, which would be amazing. And
What's your
we're also in discussions with people in that. Like I have friends in the party still. We talk all the time. It's not like there's this big wall between us. And I'm fond of many people in that party, and I'm not taking any firm stands. I will work provided there are very clear and sacrosanct policies that cannot be amended or abridged or nibbled around the edges. We have to get a course correction has to happen in this province. And the way we're going, you know that expression, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. This is where we're at. Good
so
intentions have got us here. And yeah.
so for someone like me, let's say there's no one BC candidate. I'm looking for a conservative, government. For someone like me, would I get involved to subscribe as a conservative, member, so I could vote for a true conservative person, and then knowing that you and a conservative will work together to form a government?
I think that's fair to say at this point. I mean, it depends when the election is called. If it's called in 2 years, by then we'll probably have 93 candidates, and we will run a full slate. But if it happens in 4 months, we might only have 15 candidates by then. It's really there are some unknowns in this, and I can't control when an election is going to be called. So all I can do is keep moving forward and then cross each bridge as I come to it, plan as best I can. But, we can only do so much, and we want to be careful who we bring on as candidates and make sure we've got really true fighters who aren't afraid of being called the names they call you when you're a conservative politician. And so I think this leadership race is going to be a real winnowing out process and finding out what does this party really stand for. And then we'll see where we stand at that time. And I'm not trying to dodge this question. It is a fluid situation, and I'm watching it each day wondering, how is this going to play?
Yeah. And you know what? I appreciate your honesty, and that's why I really like you. I just want the truth. I want the honesty, and you gave me a pretty solid answer there. What's your thought on Daryl Jones?
Daryl Jones, I haven't met him. I don't
Okay.
know anything about him except for he was successful in the Jimmy Patterson's group. Is that right?
Yep.
And
He
I
seems
don't.
like a conservative to me. That's why I ask.
Well, I believe he is, and I think some of them do. But the one question I want them all to answer, and this is what did I wrote this down. I would like. I don't think you can trust anybody for being able to handle the elephant in the room in British Columbia, which is the reconciliation industry. This is a thing. People say, why do you focus on this? It's touching every file because it's draining the coffers. It's causing business uncertainty. It's causing capital to flee. It's causing sawmills to shut down. It's affecting everything, our whole way of life. And so until someone takes a firm stand on this, so what I'm saying is, like, if you don't have the guts to say and stand up and say in front of everyone, there are no bodies at the Kamloops Indian Residential School, then you don't pass the test, because that is a litmus test for whether you have the spine to deal with what you're up against here. That was the biggest lie. There have been no bodies found, and on the strength of that claim, this is what we found. Money gushing out of Ottawa into this industry. Over 100 churches burned and vandalized, and nobody convicted, as far as I know, for any of that. The flag flown at half-mast for 5+ months. Canada labeled a genocidal state at the United Nations. This is not small stuff. UNDRIP formally brought in the United Nations on the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, or the United Nations, Rights of Indigenous People, UNDRIP, UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples was brought into law. And so there was a lot of fallout from this, and the knock-on effect of that has been enormous. And all of this was rooted in the fact of when the Kamloops chief claimed that there were 215 children buried in a mass grave in an orchard on the former Kamloops Indian Residential School grounds. And now we have Orange Shirt Day, where children are forced to learn about the death of children, and it's not It hasn't been proven. There's nothing there. And even the band has now changed its entire narrative around this.
Yeah, my issue is, and thank you for doing like that. Your documentary was so well done. Thank you so much for putting so much effort into that. My thing is I'm data driven. I'm fact based. So until like I mean something so serious like this, I mean it's not to chance. It has to be, you know, you have to do the work, and the work hasn't been done. So that's where I stand. I need the work to be done so that we know for sure, especially when it's so serious, the consequences of this.
Yes, the consequences have been extremely serious. And in the documentary, you remember I asked Tom Flanagan, who's a brilliant scholar in Canada, one of our most prized scholars in the country, who's been defamed and derided for his great work on this whole issue. And I said to him, why do they hold on to this story, this claim of the lives? And it's really interesting what he says, because Dallas, he said, if you pull on this, if you pull out the bottom part, it all comes down. And so the desperation to cling to this is fierce, but it's wrong. And we must be released and liberated from this lie, which is still a lie because nothing's been found. If there's found in the future, okay. But, you know.
You know, the one thing I'm going to leave this with the audience is, you know, I'm sure everybody out there is similar or the same, is you could handle, even though you think you can't handle the truth, when you take the truth at face value for what it is, you will be upset. Obviously you will feel the pain of the truth, but you could always get over the truth.
Yes.
But for some reason, I can never get over when somebody's deceitful or lies to me. I can't get over it no matter what.
No.
So I always say to people, I say, you know, if you just tell me the truth right away, I'll be upset, but I'll get over it. If you tell a lie to me, I will never get over it. And that will live on forever.
That's correct. That's absolutely right. And the lie will be, and it will liberate everybody from all of this. And there's nothing wrong with saying we made a big mistake. We made a mistake. We got carried away. And Francis Widdowson has called for a reckoning. There needs to be a reckoning. And there needs to be an announcement to the nation. And also, we should celebrate the fact that there is no mass grave of little kids. This should be something to celebrate.
Yeah, and you know, with the First Nations too, I mean, we need to come together with the First Nations.
Absolutely.
Right now, we're getting broken apart. It's terrible what's happening.
I think it's worse than it's ever been now. Don't you? I don't remember it being
I still love the First Nations, but I'm very upset with what David Eby and the Liberals are doing to this country.
A lot of people are upset.
Yeah, it's not right.
And it's not just non-Indigenous. It's a lot of Indigenous people are very upset. And I have some Indigenous people who want to run for 1BC. This is what I'm saying. We have to stop painting everybody with one brush and say they all feel this way, or all white people feel this way. No, all Chinese people feel it. No, that's not true. You can't paint everybody with a brush. And we need to remove race-based laws, not just in land ownership and so on, but even in our criminal justice system. We can't keep doing this.
No, we're all human. We all look different, but we're all human, and together we're stronger. If they break us up, we're all weak. And I think that's the goal, right? So
I think that's a big goal. And when you talk about other agendas, I don't know, is it the CCP and getting involved in our country? Is it these foreign foundations? I know that the Tides Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation are actively involved in the environmental movement in BC and shutting down all of our resource extraction industries. That is true. They work on it constantly. And so who's the agenda being run by? I don't know. I don't believe in conspiracies, but I do believe in money being invested in places where there's money to be made, and there's big interests at play, for sure. There's bigger interests.
All right, Dallas, we've done a lot of coverage here. Thank you so much for coming on and speaking to Canadians and the audience. If you guys like this, and leave a comment. I read all the comments, and I'd love to have Dallas Brodie back on the show. That's for sure.
Thank you, Mark Nixon. You're amazing. And I want to say to everybody, God bless you, and don't lose hope. What do they say? Let not your heart be troubled. We will get through this. Our ancestors went through a lot too. This is our time for fighting. So thank you so much for having me, Mark.
Yeah, we're going to keep talking about this. So thank you so much.
Okay, thanks.